Greetings, nature nerds, and welcome back to Ask an Ecologist, the show where we take all of your nature questions and do a deep dive into all things about our natural world. My name is Suzanne Simpson, and I am an ecologist with Bayou Land Conservancy, and I'm happy to be back with you today in this lovely, soon to be very crisp fall weather. And I say crisp because tomorrow's high is going to be below 80. So, here in Houston, Texas, we define that as a crisp fall day, and we're very excited about it. Before I dive into our main topic, I wanted to mention that the city of Houston, where I live, officially celebrated Indigenous Peoples Day on Monday. And so I wanted to provide just a little bit of info. I hope to do a deeper dive on this one day, but a little bit of info about two of the tribes that are kind of used, their names are kind of used interchangeably in their description, that occupied this area of Texas for many years prior to European settlement. They're the Akakisa Indians, or sometimes it's stylized the Arkakisa Indians, and the Atakapa Indians. And they really occupied much of the San Jacinto and the Lake Houston watershed. If you haven't heard of these tribes before, I super recommend that you do some learning up on them and their history and their culture. I'll give you just a couple of snippets real quick, and I certainly won't do the topic justice, but I wanted to be sure to mention it. For sure, the cypress trees that we see around the Houston area, Southeast Texas area, they were used by these tribes as dugout canoes. And the dwarf palmettos that are very ubiquitous in our wetland areas were used to make thatched roofs that allowed airflow through the summer, but also allowed some level of protection from the rain and the elements. So I think it is pretty darn brave and harrowing to live in Houston prior to the invention of air conditioning, but these nations did it for many years. So additionally, they also used a specific type of tea called casina tea, or black drink, that comes from the Yopon holly leaf. Yopon holly can be found just about everywhere in Houston these days. It's a mid-story shrub that produces a red berry in the winter, and it is our only native source of caffeine in the United States. And so this tea was used in some of their ceremonies, and this tea is really making a comeback. There are some areas in the Heights areas of Houston and other merchants along Cypress Creek that are starting to sell this tea, and so it's starting to make a comeback. So keep your eye out for casina tea, or you might hear it called like black tea or Yopon holly tea. Look out for all of those words. So I wanted to give a shout out to that on the week of Indigenous Peoples Day. Now let's dive into all things about fall. The autumnal equinox is past. That's the day where that day and night are both of equal length. So that has passed us, and we are officially into fall. Fall is one of my favorite seasons. It's definitely top 4 of my favorite seasons. It's one of my 4 favorites. And I think it is a really special season for people that live in Texas and for people that live in the Southeast, because it signals the end of the very hot, very brutal summer. So I'm always excited whenever the pumpkins start getting rolled out and the seasons start to change. But we have sort of some special qualities about our fall where we are here in the United States, in the southeastern part of it, that people will often ask some questions about. So we are going to address some of our most asked questions about the season of fall today, and how those changes affect wildlife, affect the plant life, and are noticed by all passers-by, even in urban environments. So a question that we get is, where do the snakes go, or where do the lizards go? Where do the reptiles go when it gets cold? Well, we will have regular, consistent snake activity here for about 4 to 6 more weeks, depending on how hot if we get any more hot spells I've been going herping, which is looking for reptiles and amphibians, as late as late November. So it really depends year to year. But eventually we will hit a point where the weather is consistently cold and reptile activity is going to decrease. And during that time, reptiles are mostly seeking out little climate microrefugia in their habitats. And so that basically means they're looking for areas that are a little bit warmer than just, being out, and also provide a bit of shelter, and a place for them to make their home. So places like that can be underneath logs, like decaying logs. Just because a tree is dead doesn't mean it can't be useful. And in fact, decaying logs provide so much habitat, not just for reptiles and amphibians, but so many species of insects and, of course, decomposers. So you'll find them under logs. Sheets of tin or metal that are lying around are very, very popular hiding spots for snakes and lizards, and even in between the landscaping rocks that might be in your yard. That's another place where you'll see them go and hide out during the winter time. But I do expect us to still be seeing quite a bit of snake and lizard activity for about 4 to 6 more weeks before we'll see a decline of that. Another question we got was a little bit more about bird migration. We've gone into pretty good detail about the fall migration, so I'll just touch briefly that one thing you'll want to do is keep an eye on the Houston Audubon's lights off alert. And those will tell you whenever you should be reducing the outdoor and indoor lighting of your homes and businesses to help make sure that our fall migrants have a safe journey down to their wintering sites. We are going to continue to have fall migrants pushing through our area well into November. So we've still got about 6 more weeks of birds flying through here. So keep an eye on that so you know when to reduce your electricity output so as to not confuse the migrating flocks that are going to be coming through. And that can really reduce the amount of bird strikes that we see, birds running into buildings and windows and whatnot. So keep that in mind, and keep an eye on Houston Audubon's alerts for that. So we got a question about why leaves change their color. So why in fall do leaves go from green, and then sometimes they go, from yellow or orange to brown, or sometimes they have a red color. So in a response to the changing photo period, so that basically means the length of the day is getting shorter. In response to that, and also the changing temperature, especially if you're in a more northern area, our temperature change is very gradual. Leaves will stop producing the green pigmented chlorophyll. It becomes inefficient for them to continue to produce it. Leaves are all about economic viability, energy input versus energy output, so they'll stop producing chlorophyll. And these pigments that are in the leaves called carotenoids, which are yellow and orange, will start to shine through that faded green color. And so that's where you start to see those different fall colors going through your leaves. Now, of course, you always hear that there is less fall color in the South than there are at other parts of the United States. And there are a couple of reasons for that. So one is that our growing seasons are much longer, and so that prolongs the amount of time that plants are going to be producing chlorophyll. And another result of that is we just have a shorter fall. At least in the classic sense of leaves falling off, turning different colors. There may be trees in your neighborhood that you'll notice one day are totally full-fledged with leaves, and then it'll be sometimes overnight that all the leaves just drop. And that does happen sometimes because plants are prolonging the amount that they can produce chlorophyll, and then the cessation of that happens really, really quickly. And so as a result, you don't get that gradual change in leaves as much down here as you do in other places in the United States. But there are certainly advantages of having those different, the longer growing season. I mean, we are not de-icing our windshields all winter down here, and that is nice. But the offset of that is that we have usually a less colorful fall. However, I do want to say that I think people may be looking in the wrong places if they're searching for fall color. Our eyes are always gazing upwards at the trees, waiting for them to change color, but in fact, we should be looking at the ground, at all of the prairie plants and flowers that come out during the fall. We essentially are blessed with a second spring, as it were, down here. In the fall, the blue stem and the Gulf Coast muley grasses are a beautiful blue and purple. We have your fix of yellow with Canada goldenrod, which is blooming everywhere all over the city. We have different species of marigolds, tick seed flowers that are also yellow. So my recommendation would be keep an eye on your prairie areas. If you live in the city, the Houston Arboretum is one place that has a beautiful area to go experience the prairie ecosystem, and it is an absolute fireworks show of color out there. Prairie Blazing Star has lots of pinks and purples also, and I would just say, instead of looking to the trees for all of your fall color, take a look on the ground, because our prairie ecosystems are absolutely going to town during the fall time, and it's a great time to experience the fall prairie. Now, if you're still interested in looking for that changing leaf color during the fall, it's not to say that we have none. Keep your eye on the trees in your neighborhood that are maples or sweet gums or cypress trees. Those are all beautiful color changing trees that you can enjoy right in your neighborhood that will produce beautiful native fall color. So we do have some resources available to us for the trees, and not just that, we also have tons of prairie plants that are showing their stuff during the fall time. Another recommendation, if you're feeling like doing some Texas leaf peeping, is you can go out west to Vanderpool, Texas at Lost Maples State Natural Area. That is one of the most renowned sites in our state for changing fall color. The maples change and it's absolutely beautiful. If you haven't already made your reservations, you need to reserve a day pass. You may need to wait until next year because those reservations fill up really quick. So keep that in your mind next year during this time. It gets really beautiful out in Lost Maples. It's considered by many to be the most beautiful part of the hill country. So it's an awesome road trip to take during the fall. Okay, if I've missed any fall questions that you have, please leave them in the comments. You can also send us a message with your questions, and be sure to click on our Facebook event so you can get notified each time that we're going live. You can find that on our Facebook. Thanks so much for joining me. I enjoyed being here, and we'll see you next week on Ask an Ecologist.